All right, personal opinion time. Who here has played Marathon? No, I don't mean the one from the 90s. No, I don't mean the other one from the 90s. No, I'm not talking about the Mandalore gaming video. I'm talking about the new one from 2026. It is an extraction shooter that I have been playing the hell out of, which is funny considering that I fell off of extraction shooters a while back. Plus, there was the whole artist controversy, and there was that whole thing about how Bungie is dying. But you know, as somebody who didn't really like Destiny 2, I know, kill me in the comments, this has been great. No joke. But this is one of those games that has kind of hooked me. And do you know why? It's because this is a cultural anthropology game, and that's kind of wild. What's kind of funky is that it's giving me Metroid Prime vibes, despite the fact that you're not alone and you're shooting at each other and trying to murder each other. But it's kind of like stepping onto Talon 4 for the first time, but this time it's Tau Ceti 4. I started off treating the game as if it was going to be an action-packed spectacle kind of dealio, where I shoot the shit out of guys, they shoot the shit out of me, and then there you go. But it's kind of a horror game in a weird way. Half the time you're hiding behind shit, hoping that nobody notices you until you get the drop on them, like in Alien Isolation, and half the time you're Jason Voorhees, Kool-Aid manning your way through a window and shooting the shit out of a guy with a shotgun that does like immediate death damage at point blank range. Until they nerfed it. But that's been the experience for gameplay so far. Mechanics are one thing, but is there a story? Yeah. I was a little surprised to find this out, but the game is not about you doing missions about things in the present. Sure, you're doing missions like, hey runner, go up to that UESA building and write penis on the wall. Like, yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of goofy shit that you have to do where it's like, hey, inject yourself with this neurotoxin to see if it'll kill you. Also, here's some money because you did that. But the actual story is about what happened in the past before you get to Tau Ceti 4. I kind of like the idea that this is a game that requires you to think a little critically about the pieces of errata that you pick up as you do missions, as you unlock things, as you bring home pieces of valuable gear that would otherwise just be a little money drop. But now, they're story tokens. You can pick one story up and start at the beginning of a thread where a cool therapist AI is trying to help kids deal with space madness. And the next time you pick up a log, and it's about a security officer noticing that something's weird on the colony. And then you pick up another one, and it's about the scientists trying to figure out what's starting to kill people. But unfortunately, and this is not a spoiler, they're already gone. Every single character that you hear in these logs has been dead for 50 plus years, and you know it. And the only survivors you can really find any information about are people who have just barely hung on to life after the fall of a civilization that was supposed to form. It's kind of neat, actually. I haven't really seen a game try something like this before, where the logs are telling the entire story, and you're just there to pick up the pieces. Yes, I know, BioShock exists. I was tired, okay? And the modern story isn't that bad either. You know, you got your cyberpunk megacorps that are picking through the corpses, or lack thereof, to find out all this information, but they all have their own motivations too. I kind of like how Traxxas just fucking hates you, and you get missions from them and they say, Renna, I don't like your face, but go shoot a guy for me. Actually, 5 guys, and then come back to me with their scalps. Meanwhile, you've got Mida, who are all anarchists that want to take down EarthGov, but I don't know if they're actually good people, despite them fighting against the other corporations. I like how Nona for Sekiguchi Genomics is kind of strangely caring, but in a dark way. I don't think she means the best for us despite what she says. And considering that half of these are AIs that you're talking to, and the others are all people who are a little bit crazy, honestly, it makes for a colorful cast of characters that are all telling a story that's unfolding before you, but there's pieces that can be filled in. For example, the one UESC rep that interrupts your progress in a couple of the Mida quests isn't a bad person, except he is. And honestly, I want to know more about him. I hope we get to learn more as more seasons go on, assuming the game gets more seasons, because I might enjoy it, but Marathon's got an uphill climb ahead of it, and that's kind of unfortunate. The player count now can't possibly cover the cost of developing this thing, and considering the lawsuit they probably faced with that one artist controversy, I'm not exactly expecting Bungie to make a ton of money on this. I'm also not expecting that the game will survive for even a couple of years. Right now, they have a budget that approaches $200 million by most metrics, and they're only making about $40 million at max. Nobody's really buying the premium gear at all. Nobody wants to have it. It's all just recolors of current skins, which is a problem. Thankfully, microtransactions are pretty much at a minimum right now, but eventually they're going to have to put in something flashy for people to buy. And hopefully it's not going to involve power creep. We've already experienced that with Cryo Archive, which is the one endgame map that has popped up periodically, which I do like that they only have it available on weekends. That's actually kind of neat. Gives people a chance to stock up and then go and give it a shot. But they've been having trouble with balancing weapons. Like I mentioned all the way at the beginning, the Waster shotgun was fucking awesome until it wasn't. The devs realized that players were downing the most heavily armored opponents they could in like 2 shots, point blank. And so they nerfed the range and the damage, and then increased the spread, and then decreased the auto-aim assistance. And then they just made it useless. So they're trying to go back on that now, and they've realized that they overtuned things. Same goes for knife magnetism. You do have melee in this game, and there are builds you can create based around melee, but the knife magnetized to people so strongly that it was basically an instant win if you were next to a guy. So now the knife is almost useless against players unless you really know what you're doing. And even then, it's not that great. You might as well shoot the guy. And then there's that cool gun you get from Cryo Archive that shoots goo at dudes. Before, it was a grenade launcher that basically immobilized enemies and overheated them and damaged them and kind of one-shotted them, but eventually they tuned it back to somewhere that's a little more reasonable. I know that there was a situation with an artist back in the closed beta where it turned out that some people in the art department had stolen assets directly from their work. Thankfully, I can report that in the game's credits, they are listed as a creative consultant. It sounds like they got paid pretty damn well, and it looks like Bungie made good on that, and the people who did that are out of the company, which is the right thing to do. But the actual graphical quality of the game past individual decals and a general style, I like what they did here. I've seen some people calling this Fortnite core. It really isn't. Not at all. Bright and colorful does not mean cartoony. It just means colorful. But this weird, cheery, dystopian vibe that this whole thing has is incredible. You really feel like Tau Ceti 4 has been lived in for a bit and then abandoned for the past 50 or so years. We don't really know what happened there until you figure it out. And even then, we still have a bunch of holes in our theories. We're not entirely sure what Durandal has to do with any of this. If you play the original Marathon, you know. Everything is clearly marked in terms of what you can and cannot interact with. Everything that you can't interact with has a very clear in-universe purpose. And everything you can interact with makes sense to be there. The plant life is rendered very well, and I never had any weird issues with pop-in that made it way too obvious when something is changed on the screen. I do think some of the creature design is a little weak, but that right now is just down to me not having seen any of the new stuff they'll put out in future seasons. The UESC robots look incredible. You can tell at a glance what each one is immediately. If I look at a guy with a little bit of a white stripe on him, he's got a shotgun. If I look at a bulkier guy, he's gonna have a shield. If it's not the guy with a shield, he's gonna shoot grenades. I know immediately upon hearing them or seeing them exactly what every enemy is going to do. And that goes for players too. Each of the player abilities have a distinct sound, so once you learn it, you can just say, oh, that's a recon popping her ult. They can see exactly where I'm standing right now, can't they? Overall, the game's design is pretty wild. I like what they've done with the graphics and sound, and it's pretty polished. I've played a lot of games where sound effects weren't that clear. This is one where they are. They're just ambiguous enough, though, that you could mistake one shell for another if you weren't paying attention, or think that it's an NPC enemy, when in reality a player's right behind you. And you can hear who's above or below you pretty well, so you can plan out ambushes if you really play it smart and listen to the environment. Because there are dynamic shadows too, I've actually caught out a couple of people by not quite hearing them because of noise happening on the map and a lot of gunfights happening nearby, but I did see somebody's shadow poke out from behind a wall, and I pre-fired immediately, and I won that engagement. There's one other thing with gameplay I want to mention. I like that the devs have taken a page from Arc Raiders and are offering up peaceful options, even if most players won't take it. The fact that you can hand somebody a revive with a mercy kit and just go, "Fug it, I want you to live, please don't kill me for doing this." And it's a pretty good coin flip as to whether or not they're going to just kill you afterwards. That's kind of neat. Most of the time when I've shown players mercy, they have talked over voice comms and thanked me. Or I've asked for mercy, and most of the time you'll get the Arachne wills it, stab, kill, destroy, stab. But sometimes they'll go, yeah, nah bro, I gotta go too. All right, let's go extract. And then we do. You can also play solo if you want to, but honestly, playing with randoms has been a good time. And the few times I've gotten to play with friends in an organized group, we've had a wonderful time. It's just got a learning curve, and I think that the devs need to keep that intact. But there's little bits and pieces of the game that it feels like aren't quite connecting yet, because the game expects you to become an expert in a week. If you're a new player, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Marathon is just not interested in onboarding players and making it easy for them to get stuff. Either you're new to the genre and you have no idea what you're doing, you get shot and go, fuck this, I'm out, or you're a veteran of the genre and you look at all the gray items and go, yeah, I'm just gonna throw those out. But you accidentally miss out on components you actually need to get upgrades that stick with you for the rest of the game, at least until the next wipe. I don't really know. I like the story of the game so far. The gameplay is top notch. Honestly, I think that Bungie pulled out all the stops for the gameplay balance initially, and now that they're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of balancing, we're running into the problem that I think that Arrowhead did with Helldivers 2. Players want to be powerful. That's the whole point of a first-person shooter when you really break it down. It's a power fantasy. You want to be John Halo, charging up to enemies and two-shotting them in the face because you know the exact combo that does all the damage needed to kill a guy. Or you want to be V1 and do kickflips all over the place and do triple S combos and shit. But you don't want to feel like you're so powerful that the game is trivialized. Oh, editor's note. They fixed it! They fixed it! The thermal scopes are gone! Let's go! I personally think that for $40, Marathon is a pretty damn good buy. For $28 or so, like I'm seeing right now as I'm recording this, on sale, go for it. It is honestly one of the better games I've played in a while, and its art style and gameplay combined are just kind of amazing. And I like how they did the storytelling. I'm a huge fan of ARGs, so multimedia that you have to sift through to figure out the full picture is way more interesting to me than any NPC text dump that just says, here is what occurred, could ever do. As long as Bungie is able to keep this thing relatively understandable for newcomers, I think they're going to do great. The question is, do they have time? Sony paid a lot of money to Bungie to make them one of their in-house developers. And now, how's that working out for them? Bungie's in the red so deep that I'm sure that Destiny 2 is the one lifeline that they've developed that is still making them some amount of money.
Yeah, so about that. Fuck.
But that's starting to bleed, and Marathon's cost of development has to be astronomical compared to what they were making from it. So right now, unless a big sale happens and they find a way to monetize the game in a really big way, it could die. And that would be a shame. I think that Marathon has a chance at being something very special if they can keep it alive. But if they can't, this is a game that I'm going to have enjoyed playing, but it will go away at some point. I'm personally of the belief that forever games don't need to be a thing. But I do like when something gets to stick around so I can try it again later if I'm just not feeling it right now. If I'm feeling burnt out on this, I'm going to go to Slay the Spire 2, play some of that, and then come back when I feel better. But I truly think this game is something really good right now. Hats off, Bungie. You did it. Now just keep up the pace and keep the game running. And what the fuck is going on with Durandal?